Cancer a cardinal water sign ruled by the moon?
So cardinal water is an interesting concept, right? It's cardinal is the energy that starts things, united with the element of water. Sets up an interesting matrix, which is Cancer. Cancer, it is the crab, and it has the reputation as the nurturing mother. Cancers can be extremely nurturing and attuned to the needs of others. They're quintessential maternal energy or mothering energy. And I do find that about Cancer, they are incredibly nurturing and caring and in a sincere way. It's not superficial. They're very attuned to people's feelings, other people's feelings, and their own as well, although they might hide their own feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, one of the most surprising things I found about Cancers is that because they're so attuned to others and their emotions, they're incredible business people. Them in a meeting, in any kind of group situation, they can pick up on the dynamics of what's going on and gently steer things in the right direction or steer things towards the direction that they might want. They're very good at sales as well. It's a surprising thing about Cancer, but the sales and business, they are.
Because like the way you described it, it was actually like a very like sort of traditionally feminine energy when you were saying like they gently steer things in the direction they want them to go, right? It's like just by like Cancer's presence, it sort of like guides in that caring, nurturing mother. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, it's like it's the motion of water, right? To just sort of gently take things in a certain direction. But true sincerity. There's not, I'm sure there are manipulative Cancers or Cancers who are trying to design things to their own preferences, but they are generally sincere in when they relate to people in a professional or business setting, but also in friendship. They are incredibly caring listeners. And the other thing that I found about Cancer, which I found surprising as I got to know them over time, is that they are extremely tenacious and resourceful. Amongst the most resourceful people that I know, they know how to go deep and keep themselves going in the most difficult circumstances. Yeah, it's quite something to witness.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. They're so guided by their emotions, but it's really about like sort of wanting what's best for themselves and their loved ones. They really truly care so much and they want to help, and they're family oriented. And so that's very motivating. They're very passionate about their loved ones. I feel like Cancer can be quite sentimental and nostalgic, and they may not talk about it. It's sort of like the way in which confrontation maybe isn't common for a Cancer. It's almost like they're so sentimental and nostalgic that they can't talk about it. They don't always love to show how mushy they are on the inside. It can feel a little too vulnerable. And I guess that's where we get that image of the crab and the hard shell exterior, even though it's quite vulnerable. Along with that business point that you said, as I'm thinking of the crab, thinking about the way they move, and they move differently than most of us. Cancer moves sideways and then forward and then back a little and then forward. It doesn't go after its goal like an Aries, for example, plowing straight ahead, going right direct at its target as a ram. Cancer's moving all shifty, and maybe in some ways that can be not shifty. It's not shifty. It's unconventional. And it's just a different way, I think, of going after things. But I think there's something about that passion and care and love for their loved ones, how much they want to help. It can make them very intuitive and just so incredible with other people, very emotionally dynamic time.
Yeah, sentimentality is a key word. Yeah, absolutely. Such sentimental people. And as you said, might not show it on their sleeve. And what you said about the way that crabs move and the way that Cancers might move, is they really know the value of retreating at key moments and are strategic, can be strategic in the way that they go about things. Unusual. I think another thing I've noticed about Cancers is you sometimes feel like they're not listening, but they've picked up on everything they've said. They're just attuned. They can be multiple things at once that are going on around them, and maybe not give the signal that they've picked something up, or something's happened near both of you as you walk down the street and you think they haven't noticed, but they'll bring it up later and have noticed every detail about it.
Sometimes I've seen Cancers repress, and I guess that sort of leads into the shadow, but sometimes they want to keep the peace so much, and they want things to be okay that sometimes it takes a lot for them to say something if they're angry. So sometimes they can suppress their own needs or talking about something until they sort of blow up. There's like nowhere in between saying nothing and completely blowing up about like the dishes or something, something of that nature. And speaking of the dishes, I feel like we shouldn't leave the light side of Cancer without mentioning their love of homes. They usually have a beautiful home. They like to decorate their home. They like to be home a lot of times. Their favorite place. And even in bed, too. It's like a thing with like being in bed. They like to be in bed. That would be the way like a Cancer might like relax or soothe or recalibrate, just being home. But they like other people's homes and seeing where people live, and maybe even real estate and stuff like that. They can also be creative with their hands. So like carpenters and stuff like that. I found some correlation with like artist type creativity and in the physical, tangible realm. To move to shadow.
Or do you want to start?
Okay, sure. I would like to start. Yeah, Cancer is very interesting when it comes to the shadow, actually, I think, because it's sort of like, what is the dark side of warmth and being so generous and caring? You know, they can err toward the possessive occasionally because they're just so bonded to their tribe that it can feel almost possessive. They might worry about others. Sometimes they feel Cancer can be a little bit cautious because of that worrying and because of their sort of emotionality. It can come off as sort of needy, the possessiveness. Cancer's definitely moody. Moody would definitely be a thing for Cancer. I remember hearing that, you know, we can sort of think of the crab, but it's also good to think of the moon as that symbol. And they do change moods moment to moment, and it's very influential on the people around them. Just like Leo, I think Cancer and Leo both have so much influence on the people they're spending time with.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think moodiness is something of an Achilles heel for Cancer. I feel like it's easy for Cancers to fall into a place of being hurt and living through that hurt and really hanging on to it. They can be just easily taken down through feeling hurt and hang on to that for a while in a way that can sometimes be self-destructive and keep them from kind of brushing themselves off and moving on. And I also, there can be a neediness to their emotional natures. Because they give so much to others, I think sometimes they can be hurt that people don't give as much back to them on an emotional level. No, and there's like a certain martyrdom in that. I don't know if martyrdom's the right. It's a construct that I sometimes see in Cancer's lives, because not all of us can be as beautifully attuned to emotions and caring as Cancers are. You know, they inevitably are going to not have their depths of emotion reciprocated at times. So that can be a challenge for them. Yeah, there's a certain neediness sometimes to Cancer, and defensiveness when they are hurt. Looking into situations so deeply on a constant basis can be very tiring and can really draw their energy down over time. And I think it can be cathartic for Cancers to learn to sort of bring that wall down sometimes in certain family situations or personal situations. It's very hard. I mean, they they are the crab. They have a shell that they can retreat into, but it's kind of a thin shell. I feel like they're always it's very hard for them to bring down the curtain on feeling so emotionally and connecting.
True. It's like a jacket. It's like a puffy jacket. It's not really a shell.
And then one other thing that I've noticed about Cancer energy, whether it's the sun or the rising or other planets, is that there is that proverbial broken wing syndrome, where you care so much, you feel that you can fix someone, and people are not always able to be fixed, and that can be an endless hole, a rabbit hole to fall down for Cancer. At times, if they love someone so much and that person has an issue that's either destructive to the relationship or to the workplace or anything. Cancer feels that it has so much love that it can change that person, that it can fix them, and that's not always the case, and it's hard for Cancer to let go of that at times.
Yes. When you were talking about how Cancer hangs on to hurt a little bit sometimes and sort of that whole side of it, I was thinking about how that's sort of the shadow side of their nostalgia and their sentimentality. They can hang on to that sadness as well, as much as the happiness and the togetherness. And I was thinking about sort of the contrasting nature between the mother idea with Cancer and the fact that it's cardinal. So it is that water energy, but it's the beginning. It's sort of, in a way, the most immature of the water signs in terms of the water itself. By the time we get to Scorpio, it's a very sophisticated, serious way of handling the water energy. In Cancer, it's so overly emotional and it's needy and it just loves you so much. And so, it's an interesting contrast because it is that mother and it's so warm, but it also has the cardinal.
Yeah. Well, that and mothering energy can be fierce, right? It's amongst the fiercest energy in the world. The mother's babies are threatened. The mother will give up her own life to protect her young, and in most species. So, there is a real fierceness to that energy that, you don't glimpse that often with Cancer, but you do when the things that they love or that they've created are threatened.
They do tend to be really, really close to all their people too. Like even their friends, I found they have a very, very, like their friends mean the world to them. They do anything for their friends. They'd be quick to defend a friend. That's what made me think of it. They'd really go to bat if anybody tried to say anything out of line about their friends. All right, what do we think for the ultimate highlight and low light? I found this one difficult, actually.
Oh, yeah. The highlight for Cancer for me is cliche in a way. It's their extreme caring nature. It's unparalleled, I feel, by any other sign. There's just this endless compassion and caring for those that are close to them is sustaining. For me, as someone who's their friend or has them in my family, it's such a jewel of an energy that is hard to find in other signs. My highlight.
I actually have the same one. I'll just jump in to say that I have the same one. Just that mother of the zodiac, loving, caring, nurturing. So I concur.
Yeah. And the low light for me, or in my observation, is defensiveness. I think that Cancer's defensiveness can be counterproductive to many situations and counterproductive to their own lives. At times, they will have almost a knee-jerk reaction to criticism or anything they perceive as criticism or anything that as personal observation. They can be defensive immediately, and it can put the stop on important conversations or situations, and I think that's something that many Cancers could look at and work with in terms of their natural defensiveness.
I concur, but I feel like I'm saying it in a little bit of a different way, which is that Cancer can be a little bit sort of unsteady emotionally, a bit moody, and that's hard for them and other people.